and quality of life. Here I will talk about the background processes, how you start those, also how you edit a file, some quick shortcuts, and what aliases are. So usually when you start some program, this shell of the screen that you are working in, terminal, it will be taken up by this program until it finishes running. But that's not necessary. It's also possible to send it to the background and let it run there so that you can still work in the terminal. And you do that by simply adding an ampersand at the end of a command. So whatever you are writing, whatever command you gave, options, anything, it doesn't matter. And then at the end, you put ampersand. For instance, you had a job that takes a long time to run. Just throw it to the background and then you can work in the foreground meanwhile. But what if you already started the job? Then you can instead suspend it with Control-Z. And when you do that, the job you will be told it's suspended. And then it will also give you a job ID. And nothing then happens to this job as long as it's suspended, just sits there. What you could then do is you can either start it up again when you have finished whatever it is you're doing, or you can move it to the background and then it will run there instead. And you do that with the command bg. I am going to try and hope that I have files enough in my downloads directory that it takes time for it to run. So I have time to do this. -ZCF downloads. Because that is something that might take time to do. So I am starting this up and then doing Control-Z. And when I did that, it stopped the execution of the job. And it also gave me a job ID here, 1. And now I will say BG. And when I say BG, it will continue running. And for some reason in the foreground. Weird. Okay, it hates me right now. I'm going to start a new terminal and work it. I think it simply used too many resources to stop. Okay, now I have another terminal to work in. But what I wanted to say was that you could move the background job back to the foreground. And you did that with FG and then percentage and this job ID. And that meant that it would then start. Oh, I know why it did this. It actually ran in the background, but since I had asked it for verbose output, it threw the output to the screen. So sure, it was my fault. Anyway, let's instead use this example I have here. I have a program slow command. I'm going to start that. And the only thing it does is doing something slow so that I have time to push it to the background and restart it. So I will do Control-Z. It stopped. I will move it to the background. And now it is in the background and it's running. And I can then say FG, %1. And then it comes back to the foreground and finishes up, and it has been done now. So you can try using that program. The only thing it does is that it creates a ton of files, does some replacements on them, and then puts them into an archive, I think it was, and did some other things to it. I just needed something that took a long time. But using that, you can try this and see how it works. And usually, if you want to see something that's running, you can use top, or you can use PS minus EFH and then grep for whatever it was that you were running, for instance, GC. And then you get the PID, which you use to kill it. So you could kill the zip with this one here. So a few useful terminal shortcuts and usage. You may have seen me use it, but tab auto-completes a file or a directory or a command. You can see here, if I start writing file and hit tab, and there is no other possibilities, then it would have auto-completed, but if there are other possibilities, then it will suggest the ones that are there. So let's say I wanted to say ls and lots of files, then I can put tab and it suggests it. And Control Z, as you saw, it kills the foreground process. Control Z suspends the foreground process. Control A will move to a line, to the beginning of the line. See here? So Control A goes back, Control E goes to the end of the line. That can be useful. Control L will clear the screen. It does the same thing as if you have written clear. Again, useful if you have a lot of stuff on the screen. And Control K. Let's try Control K. It deletes everything on the line. Control Y will put it in again. And you can also use Control D to just delete words there. And yeah, there are all these very practical things that if you get used to using them, means you can much faster move back and forth on the line where you are working. And there is, of course, always arrow up and down, which you can use to scroll through the commands you already gave. And it's also useful to do Control R, because that lets you search in the commands you already gave. So you start typing something, and then it does a search in that. So one thing you saw me talk about, or heard me talk about, was how do I edit a bash RC file? Well, you could just send it to it with the echo, as I showed. But first and foremost, you want to know that echo that the bash RC is a hidden file, so you'll need to do the flag A. And if you do that, then you can see it. We have a lot of stuff here. Anyway, let's just do minus A and then find. Got bash RC somewhere. There it is. So you can open it with nano, and if you put $home in front of it, then you will get it regardless of where you are located. So let's open bash RC with nano, and now you can then edit in it. And there are many things you could put here, but regardless, it's good to have a backup of it, because if you make some changes that doesn't work as it should, then it can be difficult to work in that term again. And when you have logged out and logged in, this gets run. So you could create a backup copy. And otherwise, there are skeleton versions in this directory, /etc/skel, where you could copy a new one from. But take a look at it and you will see that there are many things added to it. And you can add more things to it. For instance, aliases. That is very common to put there. The environment variables you would put there as well. If you made changes to your path or to your library path so that programs can find it there. You can also do customization of the terminal. So quickly, you could set the path of this command here. So again, it's just setting the path to what it was before and then adding the new part after. And you can add that line here if you wanted to do that. And you can also do the same way to set library. And here are some examples of how to customize the terminal. You can set the history size. That's how many commands are stored in memory, and also how many are stored on disk from memory. That is what you can search in what you see with history, what you can scroll back to with arrow up. And you can enable color support for LS, for instance, if you like it look in a specific way, you will do that. The last thing I'm going to talk about are aliases. Aliases are something you use if you maybe have a very long command and you want to replace that command with a short command that is easy to remember and they're easy to create. You say alias and then what you want to call the alias equals the command. I'm just going to exit here and clear and go into exercises. And I think I will so let's assume I want to do something like ls-lart because I like that command. But I think it's a very long one to write. It's not, but maybe I had a really long one with pipes and other things in it. Then I would say alias and maybe I just call it myls. And then that in quotation marks is where I put the actual command. And now when I say myls, it does the same thing as it would have if I gave this command here. And that's a way to make it easier to run commands you do a lot, but which are annoying to write. However, just like many other things that you set in the terminal, they are not persistent. And if you want them to be persistent, then you need to put them into your bash RC. Again, you can open your bash RC with nano, for instance. And if you have some aliases there, like I had, then put it afterwards, after those, or maybe make changes to them or whatever, how you want to. I have some aliases here, as you can see. And it's always good to make a comment. So maybe I want to say my custom aliases. And then I put some aliases there. And it could be any of these, it could be some other ones. So then when I have done that, so let's say I say alias, my alias, my ls, for instance, as I had there before. And then I say ls t. And then I save this. Yes. And now, in order to make this work, I need to source this file, because otherwise it will not have been run until I have logged out and logged in again. And after doing that, I can also use, well, actually I need to source it here as well, because it will not have run yet. That, and then my ls works in this window as well, which it wouldn't have otherwise. There are a few exercises, but I think that I will instead let Michelle take over for evaluation